Today, I want to talk with you a little bit about a certain diet type. You've heard me talk a lot about more plant-based, which is absolutely important. Here at Powerhouse Bakery, we do lots of different diets. My job is to meet you, the customer, where you are, really teaching you that there's lots of ways to build healthy. But I think what's really exciting is that this whole world of plant-based is starting to really take off. What's neat is the 20-somethings and even younger are starting to understand nutrition in a way that we grown-ups never did. And so I love the fact that people are understanding plants as a great resource for foods, a great way to maintain the safety and the health of our planet as a whole. Of course, it decreases the greenhouse gases. Of course, it decreases the amount of carbon footprint when we want to deliver products all over the world. If we could do more plant-based, and of course, if more people had a local garden, that would be such an amazing way to keep our planet healthy. But if we were to think about what the diets are out there, there's some trends and there's some key words that people really like to throw out there. And so one of the diets that you've heard a lot about that's plant-based is vegan. And so what I want to do today is I want to define this type of diet in a little broader spectrum. And then I want to also show you a new acronym, and it's this, WFPBD, a long run, which is why vegan becomes really popular, but whole food, plant-based diet. That's what that stands for. And we start to see this happen more and more, even in the medical community. And that's the thing that I think is so exciting right now. So what we're finding that's kind of happening in the social world is people are following a vegan diet for lots of reasons. One of which is similar to why people follow a whole food plant-based diet. So what I want to do is just kind of chat with you about these distinctions so that as you're building your very best diet, you can really think through how can you go from good to great. So, good. Let's just talk about what is good about eating more healthy. Again, it so much depends on where you're coming from. So if you're used to eating fast food, how do we get a little bit better than that category? Just eating more veggies is definitely a step in the right direction. More veggies. So if you or your loved ones are eating a lot of fast foods and you're trying to do better, eating more veggies is awesome. What if somebody wanted to do even more and they said, you know what, my friends are eating vegan. I'm gonna also eat vegan. Well, what does that mean? So they start reading, they start learning about what vegan foods are out there. They might go to our favorite HEB and buy some vegan foods. So if vegan foods are pre-prepared, which of course is where the media wants us to go, right? And if you've ever been to any of my nutrition classes, you know that we talk a lot about how we as consumers are driven by the media. The media tells us what we should be buying, what we should be eating if we want to do better with our diet, and especially if we want to stay away from fast foods. I mean, let's face it, HEB wants us to cook more at home, right? Which, of course, now we're in the middle of stay-at-home orders, and so we are cooking more at home. If we want to stay away from fast food and we want to have a little bit better diet, we're going to eat more veggies. If we're driven to a certain lifestyle, then we might pick up a vegan cookbook or maybe even a vegan product at HEB. And will that really be the best of choices? And so that's what I want us to look at a little bit today. So if we were to decide, yep, we're going to eat vegan, and we're eating vegan because That's what we've heard is a good way to go. What are the drivers for people that decide they want to eat vegan? Some are going to say that it's better for our planet, which is certainly true. Some people say that we want to take better care of our animals. If you've seen any of the shows on Netflix and Amazon, how animals are treated in the feedlots and on the different ranches and farms, it is scary. And for sure, understanding how we can be better consumers and just better humans overall, understanding how we take care of our animals is really important. The other thing about this might be that we're thinking of health. So if we're going to go to a vegan diet primarily for our health, then the question will be, well, what health parameters are we going to try to improve? Could we improve our weight management? Will it help us to maybe lose some extra weight? Question mark on that, right? What if it was going to be to help us with cardiovascular disease? CVD is cardiovascular disease. Will eating a vegan diet help us with cardiovascular disease? And we know that in general, a vegan diet means no saturated fat from animals, right? So in general, we could say that yes, we think it's going to help someone with cardiovascular disease, when that helps with their overall health, of course, because of the lower saturated fat and maybe even fat overall. Now, you should be thinking about some things. Let's back up and really understand if these thought processes are right. If we wanted to eat a vegan diet to lose weight, is it possible without still counting calories? Maybe and maybe not. There are still it's very possible that you can still overeat on a vegan diet, right? It's very possible. Now, we hope that you're going to listen to your body cues and feel fuller on more vegetables and be able to eat less. But it still requires that you have to eat less, right? Even if you're eating really good foods on a vegan diet. So there's still a component that's not a cure-all. The other one is, if we were to eat vegan and we weren't really sure what was in those vegan foods that we were buying, would we still be getting some chemicals or some fats that still would make it less good? So let's investigate that a little bit. And what I mean by less good is if we are buying processed foods, trying to eat vegan, are we actually better off? And so that's the key that I want to talk about here. So just as a quick review before I erase this, your vegan diet followers could be looking to improve the planet, could be looking to improve the welfare of animals, all really great. A lot of them, though, might be looking at it for health. And so that's where we really want to investigate as we're going to be our best guide to how marketing is going to try to talk us into things or guide us in a way that profits their pocketbook and not necessarily overall our health, okay? So we hope that we can get some health gains by eating more vegan. So if we think about vegan products, if you're gonna eat vegan, you better be pretty comfortable in the kitchen, right? Because you're gonna have to cook more for sure. Because if you rely on pre-packaged foods, you're going to have more problems. And so that's what leads me back to our discussion that, of course, I'm learning about with the plant-based food diet. So if we instead want to go with whole foods that are basically all plants, right? And that becomes our diet parameters. Now we are going to have to take out this really important piece, right? Because you can't get very much pre-processed or pre-packaged products that are completely based on whole foods. And that's just because they're expensive and it's going to take more processing than really what our food industry is set up for. And so if we wanted to use our vegan diet and we really had a goal for improving our health, that's where we want to really understand how vegan versus a plant-based diet or whole foods plant-based diet are different. So let's look at that. So here's a vegan diet. These are the foods that we could pick from if we were following that. Versus if we were doing a whole foods, plant-based diet, what would that be? So if we were going to eat what do you call the meat replacer? It's called I think it's called no meat. So it's a meat replacement. It's kind of all over now, right? You can get a certain burger that's made with fake meat. I hated to call it that, but you'll probably know what I mean. So a meat replacement, right? We could also get a cheese that is fake, right? I'll put that in quotes. Because of course, we can't really call it cheese because it's not made in the traditional way. It's made with either soy products or almond or rice. So it's not quite what we are expecting. We could also go with, oh, let's go have a hot dog. Hey, no problem. It's not really a hot dog. It's a soy dog. Or it's soy chorizo, right? So all these things are in quotes because it's people trying to follow what they think is healthy, but they're trying to put their old favorites into the mix. And so when we do that, the food companies definitely have an idea about how they can make money off this idea, right? They're going to use inexpensive things like a meat replacer that's basically going to be a soy derivative, and they're going to put all kinds of flavors, so maybe some liquid smoke and some TVP perhaps, and also lots of MSG and flavors. And let's agree that most likely they're not going to use organic spices, right? So they're using these ingredients to try to sell what we think the customer's going to want because it's very similar to their favorites. Now, let's go over to this category. If we really want to eat plant foods, we have to make sure that they are from the earth. So when we look at foods that are 100% A-OK, we want to start looking at things that are grains, roots, legumes, definitely some nuts. Now be careful because of course oils are also plant-based, but remember oils are from a processed plant, right? So some real traditionalists in this kind of eating would say, you know, you probably would be well off to take out oils altogether and just eat the actual plant. So then we have to go back to nuts, we have to go back to olives, and of course avocado. Just take out oils altogether. And so that's something that I'm really learning about too. How do we take away olive oil and still have a wonderful meal or recipe that we're developing? So I always go back to how much do you want to cook in the kitchen to be able to make this idea really come to full fruition. And remember, I'm always going to put back my little note here that you still have a good to great scenario. Any little steps that you take to eat more plant-based foods, the better. Okay, so just know that I'm really teaching us how to take it to full bright, but all of us could be taking baby steps to get there. We don't have to do it all at once. And before I forget, remember that vegan means no animal products at all. So there's another category over here that we say is vegetarian. And so that gives us a little, segue. We could have dairy, we could have eggs, we could even do a pescatarian, which might even include fish. So again, there's a continuum that we can absolutely find where we're comfortable to land and gradually work our way to this direction as we learn how to cook more. And that's what we're all about here, is learning how to cook more so that we're comfortable with, well, what am I going to do with this bag of lentils? Or what can I do with some sorghum or some farro or quinoa? And so know that this is going to be the very base and the most valuable place to land, and you get so much variety when you're doing your cooking. So avoid meat replacers as much as possible. Avoid the fake cheeses if you can. Just learn to like the foods with maybe different flavors. And that's where it becomes so important to really celebrate lots of spices. Really celebrate having herbs that you can pull right out of your garden. And knowing that you gradually train your palate to love those flavors, it'll be much less likely that you'll land into this category, trying to find your old favorites that are really not much healthier than the old favorites because of all the chemicals that are added in. Okay, so let me show you one last little component that Colin Campbell has on his website. And this is all free. I'm learning all this from his website, and so it's really a cool way to just learn what the experts are talking about and whether or not we want to follow Fulbright or we want to take baby steps. This is the way to do it. And so what he did was he built us this little healthy diet plan, and he put it based on, you guessed it, letter grades. And so an A+, actually I like the orange one better. A+ is going to give us Fulbright. So that means we get all of our foods from grains, including rice. So yay, I'm so excited that a wide variety of rices is A-okay, as long as they're organic. Barley, all kinds of vegetables, leafy greens, and legumes. So that becomes A+ when we go the whole food, plant-based diet. And more, you're going to find things that are bought in a dried form, and you can cook them from that base and get all kinds of wonderful recipes and alternative proteins from that base. Then the next one, he gives them an A-. So this is where you have some processed grains. So it could be like puffed wheat or parboiled rice or a quick cook quinoa. There's a product that HEB has that I actually really like, and it's called Quick Cook Grains. And it has a blend of farro and quinoa. It has some teff and buckwheat. It's a great place to start. So I'm going to say partial cook. That way you can get started and it doesn't take you as long. The other thing that would be great is to start experimenting with the crock pot and the pressure cookers that are out now, because it makes it so easy to use those raw grains and legumes and beans and really take them to fruition in a recipe without having to wait several hours. Because I know even though a lot of us are at home trying to work and not be out socializing as much, we still don't want to have to be over the stove. But partially cooked, this A- also gives us the option of canned and also frozen. So you can still feel good about getting a bag of frozen broccoli. You could get green beans, you could get a mixed vegetable, and you can make a great soup or stew or chili by using some of your dried beans or peas or lentils and adding some frozen to it. So that's a great option. So now let's keep going. If we go to the B category, this is plant-based kind of junk foods, and that's what I was talking about a little bit before regarding the vegan pre-made items. So not so much going to a restaurant, but things that you could buy that are partially cooked, that are pre-prepared from things like soy protein or textured vegetable protein. And so what he includes here is things like the soy dogs. You know, so if you start your kids on this, just know that because the sodium is so high, it's still going to be kind of tough to go back the other direction. So what I would recommend is when you are living in this B to B- category, mix it with other things. So you're still going to pull down the sodium content. For example, instead of giving your lunch just a hot dog with a bun, maybe you could have a hot dog chunks mixed in with some lentils. So you're getting a little bit of that favorite flavor, but you're really still adding some of the better choices. So he included the pre-made veggie burgers in this too. And you know, really there's some great veggie burgers out. There's one that's called Dr. Prager's, and it's excellent. They are in the frozen section, so yes, they're pre-made, but there's some really good ingredients in there. And when you take the little burger out, you can see all the great pieces of corn and whole edamame and broccoli that's just kind of pressed together. So to me, that is going to give us a B+. So I'm going to write that one down. Praeger, Prager burger. And there's a bunch of new ones out there like that. You could go to Trader Joe's and you can get partially cooked lentils. Awesome. From the freezer section, partially cooked. And of course, you're going to pay more. So whenever somebody else does the cooking and the processing for you, you can expect to maybe double the price, maybe even 4 times the price, because you're getting a small amount and you're paying somebody to do all that work. So don't be afraid to get into your kitchen and pour some water over some lentils and let them let them simmer slowly. I do that all the time in these cooking classes, and I want you to really see how easy that is. The other category, as we go down the list, are going to be ones that are a little bit worse. So I'm going to erase these and show you what he gives the C category. So again, when we're looking at letter grades, it's barely passing if it's a C. If any of my students got a C grade, I'd make them do probably 50 push-ups. Just saying. So here we have oils, including olive oil, which really surprised me. I still had put olive oil in a great food category, and honestly I still do, but his point is well taken, that it is a processed oil. And if our goal is to have lower calories for weight loss and to help minimize your risk of diabetes and heart disease, and we want lower fats to help reduce our risk of heart disease and weight gain and of course cancers, we got to decrease our calories, and that's where oils really do run havoc with our total meal planning. So he put oils in here, and he put the more obvious ones, so the sweeteners, and of course coffee drinks. Big warning sign, because it's so rare that they don't have added sugar, so be really careful. As well as tea, really important to watch that. And then when we go down to even lower on the list, and you can get this cute little handout, I'll send it to you so you can have it to look at more closely, but chips and cookies we know are going to be a C-. So even if they're vegan chips, even if they're made with sweet potato, don't let them fool you. If it's a chip, anytime chip is in the word, just like anytime bacon is in the word, if it's soy bacon or nitrate-free bacon, it's still bacon. So just put it on the no thank you list. And of course, work towards that. If you love that food, see if you can crumble up one slice and put it in the whole dish. Okay? And then we go down a little farther, animal products, when they start getting even lower. So in the D grade and the F grade. And remember, this is all based on anti-cancer. How do we get our bodies to be the healthiest possible so that our immune system can fight off the world, right? Those viruses that are out there, as well as the potential carcinogens that are in our world. And we are going to come in contact with those carcinogens and viruses every day. And the best way to fight that off is a strong immune system of our very own. So whether we're wearing a mask, or we're staying inside, or we're hiding from everybody, ultimately we need a strong immune system. And my friends, it starts with all those A's and A- foods, which are plant-based. So I challenge you to eat more lentils and split peas and grow your veggies so you can have those right out of your garden. So thank you so much for listening to me today, and hope to see you soon at Powerhouse Bakery. See ya.